Welcome back to another edition of the Apex, the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the premier podcast when it comes to Apex Legends Global Series. We are back. I'm here with Dawn. I'm here with Jumba. We are chilling fresh off of the third week of Pro League, feeling very good. Lots of stuff to talk about, lots of action to get to here. We're going to go through all the rankings and talk about mostly NA, but we are introducing a brand new segment after the interview. It's called our regional roundup. We're going to go through all the other regions with Dawn and kind of go through and talk about what's going on everywhere else around the league. So let's check in with the boys real quick. Dawn, how are you feeling, man?
We're doing good. Yeah, it's maybe not necessarily on a personal note for our team, for the nice guys. Didn't have the best week, but overall though, feeling good, feeling excited with the LAN coming up. Never a bad thing to be looking forward to, especially going with all the boys this year. But yeah, we're doing good.
Jumba, how are you feeling?
Nice Week needed 10,000 people to explain to him how to use that ALGS website. That's how I'm doing.
Can we please let this topic go, for the love of God, man?
Well, no, we can't, because we actually have a comment we got to get to where, somebody, honestly, we need to hire this guy. Let me go find it real quick. We need to get this guy on the pod because he is much better at doing podcasts than I am, for certain. Let me find it real quick. So this one comes from Zam432F. If you talk about a website on a podcast, I think it's a smart idea to show the audience on screen. Pretty basic. We got to get Zam. We got to hire him. I didn't even think of that. I didn't even think
Are you like
to maybe put the website up. We got to hire him.
Being like sarcastic when you say that? Like,
am I?
Because to be absolutely fair, is Zam that wrong? I don't think a screenshot would have hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't think a screenshot would have hurt.
Listen, I'm saying we need to hire this man. I'm saying we need to get him on the show. I didn't even think of that. You know what I did think about was putting in that clip, that stupid clip that we kept laughing about for fucking 45 minutes about him telling Slayer to calm down about lag. And I didn't think about putting the fucking website on the screen. So yeah, we got to hire Zam. Sometimes that kind of stuff just flies over my. It actually probably would have been great if we just had an entire
need to hire video. It. We don't need the screenshot because my description, rambling off the different menus going from left to right, I thought painted the picture very clearly. If you're someone who doesn't watch the podcast but just listens, let us know if my description was good enough for you, because I thought it was. I think it was impeccable. I thought it was impeccable.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I tried to make it as confusing as the website actually is. Okay, we won't talk about a website for 10 minutes again. Let's roll.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. I just want to see how you were. Leafs won game 1. Shout out.
Oh,
let's go.
Dude. This podcast and my mood, I just want you guys to know is every time I come to the podcast, if I look sad, it's because of what happened in the last Leafs game. If I look happy, it's because of what happened in the last Leafs game. So I'm doing good today. Check in with me tomorrow.
There we go. Okay, without further ado, let's get into the action here, because last week we did talk about a website for about 10 minutes. It was about 10 minutes. Let's get straight into the action here. Pro League day number 3. Our winner was Shopify Rebellion. They had one hell of a day, but it was a close one. It kind of came down to the final game here. NRG in second place, Virtus Pro in third, and then 9 Lives in fourth. Now, 9 Lives, we'll talk about them in a moment. They were pretty high up on the list for most of the day. A bad second half of the day kind of like slowed them down, but a fourth place is a fourth place. We're going to take that all day long if you're 9 Lives. Going through the rest of the rankings here, we had Fusion at 5th, Purple Slushy at 6th, Spectre Esports at 7th, Empire at 8th, Furia at 9th, and then CTE rounding out your top 10. Some notable teams throughout the bottom of the list. It was kind of flooded heavily with some big name teams that you expect to do well. We had 100 Thieves at 11th. We had Envy at 13th, Complexity at 16th, and then Luminosity all the way down there at 18th. So some big name teams struggling in that Pro League day number 3. Let's kick it off first here with our winners, because Shopify deserves the shine. And I think the only way you can really describe how this team did so well is cohesion. That's what this team is from top to bottom. It is cohesion all the way through. And then you add in a little bit of Koifel going absolutely berserk, nuclear, sicko mode. It just proves to be one of the best teams in the league. I talked to Donnie a little bit before the season started when the Reddit rankings came out, and I thought they were disrespecting Shopify a little bit. And I talked to Donnie about it a little bit. And I know it's like voted on by, everybody who's in the Reddit. So there's going to be, some bigger name teams going to, go above. And it's not like they were super low. But I just feel like this team was being a little bit slighted here, and it showed on today. They were absolutely impeccable. I'll start off with you, Don. What are you seeing from Shopify that's so impressive?
I mean, again, I think the expectation we have for this roster with the 3 players that are there is that we do expect them to play well, right? Like I don't think it's any shock that they're getting first place, and nobody should be surprised that they're doing well. We just obviously saw their week 1 performance and kind of were like, okay, what, are they kind of adjusting to the legend bans? Is there kind of some things that they're still trying to figure out on the back end, since there's a lot that kind of changed between champs and what we got with Pro League now? But obviously they returned to form this week. Again, we plenty of highlights and clips. Koiful leading the lobby, I believe, with 19 kills, I believe was the amount that he ended up with. But overall, again, it's a very complete team. You can see it top to bottom, from the IGL down to their fraggers and refrag. I mean, it was a complete performance. Each and every game, it seemed like in one way, shape, or form, they picked up some form of good points. I think they only had one game, again, kind of like Falcons did last week, where they only had like a 3 or 4 point game. But other than that, they did very well each game, at least picking up some sort of respectable amount to add to when they get that big pop off game. They just have those totals to add to it. So again, I think it was game 3 that they ended up winning, or no, excuse me, it was game 5 they ended up winning. Yeah. Doing a great job where it felt like NRG kind of had the game winning spot. Shopify did a really good job of stalling and getting some KP, but then also doing a great job picking up angles on NRG to end up winning the game and winning that last fight. So overall, again, I think definitely something we could expect from this roster. And again, I think if they're not considered one of the LAN potential champions, I think somebody is not paying attention. But I definitely think there's a lot of good things with this roster. And again, it just starts with how complete of a skill set each of those players have.
Yeah, it was really impressive to watch from top to bottom. I went through and watched every single game just to kind of see what was making this team go on the particular day. And one thing I noticed that jumped right out in front of you is how well how cohesive their comms are. It is very impressive to see how good everything is. They do have those moments in the middle of fights where, everybody's kind of screaming, going back and forth, but not to the level that I've seen some other teams around the league. This team has everything kind of locked down. And I don't think it can be overstated how impressive Zainu is as well. MT is obviously the IGL in this team, but Zainu provides so much solid input throughout the entire set, the entire day. He never stops talking. There's even moments where MT kind of goes, I wouldn't say he goes silent, but he's kind of like figuring out what he's going to do from his perspective, his angle, making sure everything's going right for them. And so Zainu will start giving feedback. He'll start throwing out some comms. Maybe we try this, maybe we try that. It's super impressive to listen to. And he also balances out just the team's, energy as well. There was a moment where Koi goes down trying to loot a box. It was early game, so they were able to get him back up. And they're kind of getting on him a little bit like, hey, you can't do that right now. And Koi kind of gets frustrated back at them. And then Zainu's able to calm him down in like the most perfect manner I've ever seen. Like it just instantly tensions relaxed. It was all calm. Everything was great. And I think when you're in a situation that they're about to be in the open, you need guys like that. And you need moments like that to make sure everybody can stay locked in for the amount of games that they're going to be playing. So very solid from Zainu, very impressive from Zainu. And I just felt like overall the entire day, their comms were just perfect the whole day. Jumbo, did you have anything to add?
I mean, like if I hopped in on what you were saying there, it's kind of, I don't know how to word this. I feel like Zainu somewhat comes off as like underrated. And the reason I say that is because I don't think people talk enough about how much Zainu should be regarded like with those like top players in the game. Like when I'm literally throwing out names like Zero, Hal, like fucking the GOATs. Because like you said, I think Zainu in a short time, really like, I don't know, like he came into like a very strong commanding role on his teams, won that second LAN. And like you said, like his comms When you watched when he first started off, like Phony and Frex were a little bit, the whole team was a little bit all over the place, but like he really like shaping it up going on throughout the year, and just became a lot more, I guess, like focused, like direct.
There's a certain poise that he has when it comes to these hectic
Yeah.
moments, for sure.
Yeah, I guess that's like the way to put it, and it's just it's been really impressive, and like that. Once that came into shape, like his mechanics were always there. He's got the ability to IGL, but he's not the IGL of his team. I think he's one of the best in the world right now. And yeah, and that's why everything Donnie said, like I wouldn't even have to repeat or dive deeper. Like the reason why people are almost seem so surprised, like when Shopify comes first, or like maybe they're not rated higher, is because of the fact that the expectations of this squad is that they are like land favorites to win, right? Like you really do have like your Alliances, your Falcons, your Shopify Rebellions. At least that was the top 3 teams in Japan. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, it was really cool to watch, and like I love the word you said there, Donnie, with just being poised in those moments. I think his favorite calm throughout the entire day is like, hey, stay calm, relax. Like he's constantly trying to make sure, or actually no, it's slow down. He tells everybody to slow down a lot, and I think that actually really helps out. It sounds so simple, but it really does help them out in a lot of key moments. And even when things go bad, they're able to kind of bounce back in a way that it almost feels like he's the bridge between the other two to make sure that no tensions reach the boiling point. And he does it very well. And I mean, he's won 2 lands already, as young as he is. Having that sort of ability to keep everything emotionally connected while also being one of the best just players out there, it's a dangerous combination, and it's really showing recently, and it's super impressive. So, Jumbo, what you're saying, like putting him up there with some of the greats already, I don't think it's that crazy. I mean, Jay came on the pod before Japan, and he had said like he might be the best player in the league. So, yeah, it's super impressive what he's doing right now. Yeah. But that was Shopify Rebellion.
I'll say real quick too, just for people, if they want to see an example of what we're talking about, go back and watch Game 6. They don't end up winning that game, but they come onto the very far side of zone and have a ton of traffic in front of them. And you can just see how well they communicate, where teams are at, what their plan's going to be. So when the chaos does happen, they end up clearing out about 2 or 3 teams on that side to even give themselves an opportunity to try to walk into zone, because they take a fight on one team and they end up getting some KP, everything. They end up swinging back to another side, end up clearing out some KP, and then Koi absolutely just pops off, unfortunately, on our boy Burke's team. But that kind of moments are examples of what this team can do in the moments of chaos. Like I said, the poise they have, the communication they have, all the great teams have it. But for a team that isn't necessarily, again, everyone thinks of Falcons first or Alliance first. But I think a team that should be in that conversation every single time, it's got to be this team with the poise and the ability that they have.
You know what? I'm going to throw that clip in because it doesn't just show their poise and their ability to calm, but it also shows the absolute skill that Koifel has. I'm going to throw that clip in right now. Check this out real quick because it's super impressive.
He's playing so slick.
I know. They're fighting now.
We can't sprint in here. We can't sprint in
No,
here.
we're just gonna play right and let this top left team fight them, bro.
Creeper team's
Like,
looking for that
play
team.
him
Is that you?
Yeah, I know. It's perfect. It's perfect. Let them slide. We're gonna EMP fight. Sorry. Can you find me for now? I'm so safe here. Hide from right here.
I'm gonna ult soon.
Yeah.
You can pop it. You can pop it.
I'm running up here.
No,
now.
I'm gonna wait a little bit.
Come, play down. I think we filtered right. No, do you want it? Unless they
I like right. I like right.
I'm gonna pop it now. I'm gonna pop it now.
You stall.
Rice looking at us.
Bang out there. Skydiving him, Joe. I'm gonna skydive. We can fight.
I'm fighting.
Can we swing left? They got fuse holder, I think.
Wait together.
Go,
Come on. What you guys? You good?
Yeah, I'm
I'm gonna stop.
You need to walk in.
Yeah, we gotta get to the fence. Where are we in? We play here?
Play you. Look left. They're fighting left. Play enough, boy. Go, run.
I'm shooting.
Scanning it.
Stop. They're fighting. Cut the dead.
Nice.
Let's look at right. There's a team on the right truck.
I'm
I'm gonna pick them. I can't see them.
I'm in on it. I can't truck for a while.
We're fine.
I don't want to talk to Tony. Don't smoke for Tony. Keep right.
Wait, hard right. I'm watching this.
Look at the res. I don't want to smoke for a while, bro.
There's any team on top.
Hold this peak. Smoke in 3. Wait. Going. 1 second. Going. Go.
Go. Bing.
Top right.
Bing, check. Bing, one.
Top right. That's not.
I'm swinging.
Burn, check.
Oh, you can reset on me. Can reset right on me after.
Dead.
Here's the main.
Oh, no.
Two right.
I'm not.
I'm swinging right.
Back on, just.
Fucked him. You win that coin. Last one.
Get on.
Quick.
That's the other thing about Shopify too that I've noticed a lot is MT can kind of set the two. They're like the Bash brothers. MT will be sitting in drone and he'll just send Koifel and Zainu out and they'll just go on missions together while MT's just watching from the top being like, okay, they're over here. Go kill them. They kill them. Okay, now go over here. Go kill them. Their entire E district was basically that. I mean, there was like 2 games where they were just running around and just getting all the kills because they're so gifted, but they also have the comms to do it. So shout out to Shopify Rebellion. It was a hell of a performance from them this week, and they definitely deserved that first place. Let's move on into NRG here, boys. NRG, they did not have the best first day, and it was a little bit. There's some rumblings. I'm not going to say people were outright saying like this is going to work, but there was definitely some rumblings. Like what? I mean, the squad kind of came out of nowhere. Nobody was really expecting it. Timmy didn't have the best showing the first time around, so how is this going to work? And they get a second place. They shove it right back where everybody was saying it from. So from NRG, your guys' perspective on NRG, Jumbo, I'll go first with you. This roster, once again, we had talked about it the first time. We're kind of trying to figure out like, what is this team? What are they? Who are they? But this week they come out and they have a banger day. What'd you see from the NRG perspective?
Well, I mean, like game 3, they drop a nuke, 32 points, 20 kills. As I was watching that game back, like it's kind of crazy. I think it's like round 4 they're entering, and they have 1 kill at that time. And then Guild gets full killed and dies, and they have to go for the revive. And mid-revive, both Timmy and Yanya go down and manage to get out because the team that killed them gets a third party, and then Guild full resets. They get the kill there, and they get the height just outside of City Hall, and then it just becomes like fucking target practice for 3 insanely mechanical players as they clean up every player on the low ground and drop 20 total kills. I think like what the thing is, like a lot of like you're saying, like if anyone's saying like what is this team, I think it's just a team that has to find their form with Timmy getting like like practice and reps under his belt with IGLing, because like I said, like 32 points in a pro league day is no joke. So it's a team that obviously, like if they do have that opportunity, they can strike, and they will. And so it's just maybe like more of like a time and experience thing for Tim, but I'm excited to see like how they play at the LAN now, like because they're going to be an exciting team. And I mean, any team Guild is on, in my opinion, is always a contender. So yeah, especially Yanya too. Both those guys have finished top 5 at several LANs.
Yeah, and Don, when I throw it on down to you, I think one comparison that I look at, not really with NRG as a whole, but more just Timmy, is you kind of get that Zachmazer effect at times where there's sometimes a lot of inconsistency, but when they're on or when he's on, he is absolutely on. And I think sometimes that's what's happening with NRG and just Timmy in general. Am I off base with that, or where are you kind of seeing NRG and where they're coming from?
No, I mean, I definitely think it's a different kind of style when it comes obviously to Zach, but I do see the comparison where there is those inconsistencies, but their ceiling is so high that it's just like you know that version of that team is there. It's just, is it going to come out on that certain day? And I think it's one of those things that everybody, no one's ever to question Timmy's just individual mechanical skill of the game. He's obviously one of the best at it. It's just that decision making, right? Like, he had this period of time where he didn't play competitive, where a lot of people kind of gain those extra experiences as IGLs. He's still relatively fresh when it comes to IGLing teams. I know he's done it a couple times here and there, but it really hasn't been like a consistent pattern with consistent players. So you always are kind of having to try to change and adapt and do these different things. And I think at the end of the day, it's, how long does it take for them to shape up to the best version of themselves is really what the question is going to ultimately be. The thing I'm most curious about what they decide to do is that I noticed, at least in this match day, it'll be interesting to see if it continues to be this way. But in these early games, when there's like the Newcastle and the Cat in play, we only saw them pick up about 8 to 9 points. But then when those two characters are getting ruled out, they immediately go 32 points running a Crypto Alter Fuse. Then they switch over to Crypto Ash Fuse. They drop 8 points in that game. The next game after that to Bang Fuse Crypto, it's 13 points. So I'm really curious kind of when these more kind of sit down, find a spot in zone type characters start to get weeded out early on with, like I said, the Cat and the Newcastle, if they do end up taking advantage of that when the lobby could potentially get a little bit more aggressive. Because I know typically like the Newcastle play will slow things down, and they're a team that when they're at their best are going to play at a very fast tempo. So I'll be really interested to see if that's something that comes into play as we continue in this legend ban system for them.
That's a pretty good point, because Timmy's always been like, it was even I think a thing that him and Designful kind of clashed on is that Timmy likes to be kind of like really aggressive and go for high risk, high reward situations, which those sit down and zone situations don't really like, present many opportunities of. And watching them with the crypto was hilarious. I mean, like every team when they play crypto are experiencing this, right? But especially with the P20 meta and the accelerator, Timmy fucking crypto alt won the team, and then you got Yanya and Guild who can go in and swing and just absolutely shred that fucking team. And every assist he gets, he's getting like alt charge from the accelerator, right? You just need assists, and that's what the crypto alt does. So like they can kill all three players that are stunned by themselves, and Timmy might have like 80% of his alt charge back, or Timmy gets in the fight and he gets even more. So like, yeah, there was that one fight where they had to reset, revive Timmy and Yanya, and then they get back up on the height, they push the other team. Yeah, Timmy crypto ults them, and by the end of the fight he has 80% crypto ult back. He has an ult excel, and he immediately has crypto ult for the next fight. He doesn't immediately use the ult in that situation, but like if he had to, he could have. I think I talked about it like last week or something like that. Yeah, with Rambo, where Hambino crypto ulted 2 teams without leaving his drone. So kind of crazy with the situation there. And that stuff we saw when crypto was really meta in Germany, like how much he promoted actually edge play style and like going for aggressive kills. So it's something that team could probably really thrive with.
Yeah, I'll be interested too. One last thing is that I think typically if people had to pick between Yanni and Guild, who they expect to be kind of more of that front line player, because they've run, again, they have the altar, they got the Ash, they got the Bang throw in there. I think more people probably would have picked, they thought would be Yanya playing that, but it's been Guild that's been playing those characters. So I'll be really interested to see if that's a trend that continues, because I think a lot of people have been seeing Yanya on like Newcastle and being like, what is going on? Why is this guy on Newcastle? But if Guild is able to do the job on these Alter, Bang, Ash characters, and they continue to have days like this, and then Yanya is able to lock in the Fuse and get really good at Fuse, because in their big game 3, which they had 32 points at 20 kill win, Yanya was playing Fuse and had the most kills and had 2,300 damage, right next to Guild having 5 kills and 2,600 damage. So that dynamic seems to be working, at least on this day. And if that's something that's continued, we might see a different side of Guild than we've really ever seen, because I think no one questions the talent, obviously, but it should be very interesting to see him more frontlining, I think, than we ever have before. So it'll be a really interesting dynamic to see if that continues at the LAN and into Pro League as well.
Yeah, so that is NRG as it stands right now. They bounce back, and they needed a big bounce back. That's what they got. Let's move into the third team here, and this is Virtus Pro. We talked a lot about Virtus Pro last week, but I just want to reiterate, they get a third place here today. I went back and watched once again. I'm just super impressed with Lou. I know I already said it last week. Another week where once again, I'm like watching, listening, and it reminds me of Zainu with Shopify. It's almost the exact same role. It's like they almost play the exact same role. They are a right-hand man to the IGL, but in a way where it's like so important to that IGL's ability to make calls and do things, because it's not like they're just going to be a pushover and just say yes to everything. They're going to give feedback, and they're going to give feedback that they think is going to help the team overall. And it sounds weird to say, but I don't think every single team has a guy who's like that. In fact, I feel like a lot of teams are missing a guy like that. So it's super impressive to watch. And then obviously we already know the skill. I've watched Lou so much now with Complexity, with Lanimals, and now here with VP. They're quickly becoming one of my favorite teams to watch. And I always seem to find a team every season, every split, where I end up just watching them more than others because I'm intrigued by how the team dynamic works. And I think VP strikes me in a weird way, because I remember when this team had first kind of started before they were VP, where it was Zachmazer, Luxford, and Slayer, and they just had some of the worst days you could possibly imagine, followed up by a day where they absolutely pop off. And I think Slayer is another key cog, a key catalyst to why things were doing good, why they were doing well this week as well. Because last week, Slayer wasn't saying a whole lot. Now, he did get
was
yelled at for lagging. So
Yeah,
I
he was
understand. I
lagging.
get it. But this week, he was a lot more vocal and
not
in
lagging.
a way, and not lagging. And he was vocal in a way that I really felt like it almost took after a little bit what Lou was doing. And he was making these like different calls and being like, what about this? What about that? Why don't we do this? Why don't we do that? Even in the post game when they had games where it didn't necessarily go the way they wanted it to, he was still giving his input, his feedback, where I feel like I didn't see that happen as much when he was playing with LG. Maybe that's because he's, a little bit newer and sweet. You don't really know exactly, you're still trying to get your footing in the league. But now I feel like he has a different kind of confidence with him. He's got a little bit different of a swagger. And he had a play on Broken Moon where, first of all, that entire game for them was absolutely nuts. Zach calls it perfectly. At one point, Lou and Slayer are saying, hey, what are we doing? We should just try to evac and get a spot in zone. Zach goes, hell no, we're so far from zone. It's not going to work. We might as well just get as much KP as we possibly can and then see where we can, like, if we can try to get a spot later on. There's already going to be however many teams inside the zone. Let's just try to get kills. It's exactly what they do. And then they end up getting a banger spot inside zone. They go down as Washington scores the overtime game winner, Alexander Ovechkin.
No, of course.
But as they get into zone, Zach goes down, Lou goes down, Slayer is by himself. There are like 3 teams looking at him. He hides behind a staircase, hits about 5 vert nades, knocks, I think, Furia, and he gets, I think, an extra 2 KP in a spot where they were absolutely not going to win that game. I think Shopify ends up winning that game. NRG had Godspot. They kind of fumbled it low-key, but they end up getting some extra points there. All 3 of them put together are making this team go. And Lou tweeted out something, I think yesterday or today, where he was just like, I'm just very thankful to be a part of this team and to be doing as well as we are with the teammates that I have. And I think it's because they all know they have something special going right now. We'll get to the standings here in a little bit, but they are currently sitting atop the league in NA in Pro League. So it's impressive to watch, man. I'm really enjoying watching this VP team, and I think they're slowly becoming one of my favorites and like the teams I'm going to be looking out for the most in New Orleans. Don, you have anything else to follow up on with VP?
Yeah, I think you did a great job talking about it. So I think the only thing that I'll add is it's very interesting that a lot of people complain about them getting those zones last week, whereas this week they were still playing Foundry and had 2 zones that pulled away from them on Broken Moon, and they still get 38 of their 49 points that they score on the day on Broken Moon with 2 zones pulling to the literal opposite corner of the map. So for those that complained last week, the game works in mysterious ways sometimes, and they had opportunity to prove themselves this week that they were able to show that, hey, we can play from the other side of the map. We can still ball out. So Broken Moon, for a map that is obviously very new to competitive, VP might be finding a groove on that map, which if you can do that at least on 1 or 2 maps, you feel really good about them, that could really lead you to go very far in these tournaments where you're going to see multiple maps a day. So big shout out to them. Been awesome to see, and hopefully they continue it moving forward.
Yeah, so that was... I was going to say...
Yeah, I thought you were going to ask me, and I was going to be like, nah, Donnie put it perfect. Like, I can't say anymore.
No, it really was. I mean, I think we talked about him so much last week, too, where it's like we kind of just regurgitating the same things. But it is really impressive because last week, the only thing you could say was they got zones. This week, they didn't get zones, and they still managed to get 3rd place. So at a certain point, you just have to tip your cap and be like, hey, I think they're just in good form right now. And that's exactly where they're at. So on top of that, we had a lot of other teams around the league that didn't do as well as some surprise teams that were in that like good upper echelon area. I kind of wanted to give you guys an opportunity to talk about one team that you were kind of impressed by. I'll start off with you, Don. There's plenty of unsigned rosters here that did well, but also some teams that you kind of know and have been watching closely. Is there any that stand out to you?
Yeah, I think we gotta give credit where credit is due with 9 Lives. I think that them coming out and winning the first 2 games definitely proved that they've got a lot of good things going on within that team. Obviously, they have a great IGL with a ton of experience with Vayne, but also Cersei and McLovin doing a great job coming in and really kind of getting, I think, their first true real pro experience and doing a great job this week. For those who haven't seen it, and again, it's one of the craziest clips I've probably ever seen to win a game. I think by literally a pixel and like 1 health, Cersei ends up winning a crazy 1v1 against Omnu to win.
Is that they traded? I thought they traded.
Yes, they literally traded, but again, by like the 1 pixel, I guess, with that trade, his bullet just happened to end up hitting him earlier. It's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. I think you have to, because people have to see that. It's one of the craziest things I've seen. But yeah, Wyatt, I'm sure you'll get that thrown in there.
Let's throw the clip in right here so people can see it, because it was pretty cool.
There's all 3 up. Kind of crazy when you've got Purple Slushy down to a duo. 100 Thieves just behind the mobile shield, looking to heal up if they can. The 3v2, v2, and McLovin trying to take down a fortress.
Grinding for holes, trying to get up on the top 3 here too. 9 lives, Bane going down. Cersei being the last one here to keep the dreams for 9 lives, but another great look for 9 lives. Now as Almu, he's literally won. Cersei now getting clutch, he can noble. 9 lives, he get the trade here. 9 lives. They do it again. In such a 1 pixel of health moment, 9 lives take game number 2 with the back-to-back.
But overall, like I said, it was a really good job by them. Again, coming out, I think the biggest thing for these teams that aren't necessarily, the Shopify's, the Falcons, the biggest thing you can do on these Pro League days is start off hot and start early and be able to come out and win those first 2 games, especially when there was a restart involved as well, where they can definitely throw off your momentum. I think is a great testament to just the solid job that this roster has done. And again, I don't believe they had maybe necessarily the best first day, but showing up and doing a great job here, getting 4th overall. Again, just puts them in a really good spot. I believe they're in the top 10 now overall in Pro League for NA, which, they're sitting 8th now. So, big shout out to them. Great job. And again, hope to see more of them moving forward.
Jumbo, did you have a team that stood out to you?
I just want to shout out my boys over at Fusion. I got to actually get Burke to introduce me to those guys. I've never talked to Trev Stack and those dudes. But, Burke, we've talked about him a handful of times, our buddy, who's coaching that team now. They just locked in 5th on the day, while also being put on an absolute fucking poster by Koifel.
For those who don't know, that clip we showed earlier, that was unfortunately our boy.
Unfortunately, that's his squad.
That's Burke's team. But other than that, sick day, 5th, and it might be too early to tell, but they got 5th in game 4, 5, and 6 to finish the day off in 5th. Could they be the bleed of 2025?
Oh, are they the new bleed?
The new bleed.
Some are saying, let's start the rumor now. Some are saying we found the new bleed.
We'll have to see, because they didn't get 5th last week. But if they continue to get 5th or 6th throughout the rest of Pro League and LAN, could be.
Hey, that's a big money if they get 5th overall at the Open. I'm just saying, that man's picking up a bar tab or 2 if they get 5th at the Open.
Yeah.
That's going to be insane.
Burke's paying for the Airbnb.
We do have to say, too, though, that the 5th, 6th place thing does belong to Drops. That's his. That's his. So, if he ends up getting 5th or 6th again, I mean, we got to give it to him. It's always going to be Drops' thing that he was always getting just 5th or 6th. Yeah. So we have to give it to him first.
That's fair. That's
man.
fair. I can deal with that one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll talk about my final team that I wanted to speak about here on the Pro League day, which was Complexity. Another. I would say this is tougher than their last showing, because there was a 20th place. I think there was a 19th place as well. Just 2 really bad games, and I think sometimes when you look at a bunch of names and you put them together, you say that sounds really good, because that's exactly what they were needing. And when you look at Complexity, you're like, what do they need? They need a little bit more firepower. Who do they go get? They go get Funk. And you're thinking, that's perfect, man. That's exactly what they needed. They just needed to get a little bit more kills. But sometimes the names just don't necessarily mesh and they don't necessarily mix. And I'm not saying it can't work, but at least through the first 2 days, it just hasn't been what you would have expected with Funk on the roster. They're just not getting the kills that they've been looking for. There's been it's just been a little bit disjointed with how they're pushing in different ways. I guess it just feels like the plans just haven't been crisp enough. And we got to figure out what's going to go down with Complexity, because once again, Mon and Kimchi are 2 of my favorite players. Interviewing them, some of my favorite times, and And I love watching them at LAN in Japan. When they won that game, I about passed out of excitement. So it's like, I want to see them do well. Just right now, it seems like they almost need to pull on the reins a little bit more on Funk, just keep him a little bit closer. Obviously, with a guy with that much talent, you want him to be out there getting kills and like getting entry. I just think right now, with the way they're trying to do it, there might just be a little bit too much space in between them and Funk. And then also sometimes when they're trying to fly in and get these spots, just seems like a little bit too late. It just seems like they're getting to those spots a tad too late, and it's costing them in some of these games. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I've seen Complexity battle back from some tough spots before. Currently, they're sitting way down below on the standings here. So they're going to need a couple good days to like really bounce back. But they have the talent to do so. So I'm just hoping we see that from the Complexity boys. But that's basically it, ladies and gents, from NA Pro League day number 3. And that's going to be our last day, at least until the Open is done. So as we sit right now, I feel like we got to go through the standings and talk about where everybody is at. Currently in the number 1 overall standings, we have, it didn't switch. Hold on. Currently in the number 1 standings, we have Virtus Pro VP. Like I mentioned earlier, they are currently sitting number 1 in NA with 39 points. Right behind them is Shopify Rebellion at 36. Third is Team Falcons. Fourth, 100 Thieves. Fifth, Team Liquid. Sixth, Huss. Seventh, NRG. Eighth, Oblivion. Ninth, 9 Lies. 10th, Envy. 11th, Twisted Minds. And 12th, Furia. So that would be the 12 teams going to split 2 playoffs, not split 1. The Open, everybody's going there, but that would be 12 going to split 2 as it stands right now. So shout out to those teams. Still a lot of Pro League left to be played, but that is where we are so far. Ladies and gents, we're going to throw it on down to our interview real quick. And then after that, we're going to get into our review of some of the other regions and then our heart-to-heart. Let's get it. All right, here we are, ladies and gents, with a very special guest. For the first time on, I checked the date. The last time we had him on was almost 3 years ago. Zachmazer back on the pod. Zach, it was crazy listening back to that interview and seeing how far you've come from that Zach to this Zach now. But man, how are you feeling right now? Currently sitting number 1 in Pro League with your boys at VP. How are you feeling, man?
Feeling good about it. Like, obviously we're only 2 weeks into it. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint. We are winning the sprint right now. That is an accomplishment in itself, you know, being the first seed in the world going into the upcoming LAN. It is a big deal. Don't want to downplay it, but also want to be able to succeed through the rest of the season and finish top 3, ideally first.
Yeah, and it hasn't just been, you guys getting number 1 Pro League. Obviously, Sapporo, you guys get 5th, and I feel like you guys are just in prime form right now, feeling good, feeling great. As far as the last couple of months have been for you with everything going on with the final, getting ready for the Open, Pro League, all that kind of stuff, it's got to be a lot of different changes, moving parts, all this kind of, everything moving around with the Open. How are you feeling as far as just yourself, like within the team, and where you feel that you're at with your calls and everything like that? As the IGL for VP?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm definitely like 10 times the player that I was last time you guys had me on the podcast. I'm definitely like, I've definitely come into like a higher echelon than I was before. Definitely from like VOD review and just, playing the game more and trying to look at it from like a different angle. Again, my job as an IGL, it's all about understanding the game and making a certain decision and what the outcomes could be and what's most likely to find success. So, I mean, if you're struggling with that, the only thing you can do is just look at others that are, making those right decisions. Try to learn. Honestly, I'd give a lot of credit to Slayer and Lou, though. I think Slayer and myself, but more Slayer than even me we're criminally underrated. I think people don't realize how good we are. Lou is obviously one of the best players in the world right now. You could make an argument that he's like a top 3 more valuable player in the world. So I think we get like the whole mix together of like someone like Slayer who like really understands his role on a team, just tries to hone in on his role. He doesn't try to be a superhero, right? And then myself, who, I mean, I can throw games and I can get a little mixy every now and then, but I try to hold it down. And we have Lou, who's just a super insane fragger. It's a good mix.
Yeah, we actually talk about it on the pod quite a bit where, obviously people love the jokes, the Mazer moments, everything like that. They bring them up. But we talk about pretty often that when you're on, you're on. Like your calls in the way that you, can obviously have the macro plans, but the micro, like the way you direct your team to certain positions is just kind of top tier with the best of the best out there. What is it that has been like you said, like now that you got Slayer, Lou, you guys are one of the few teams that stuck together after Japan that has helped you succeed in your role in helping your team with the first place overall in Pro League right now, the first 2 days.
Yeah, well, first off, the boys are screaming right now, so if you hear any yelling or anything, that's them. I think
That's
it
all
just
good.
came through my mic before, but it is what it is. You're gonna hear Reese screaming about his teammates or something probably. But I made a mistake many years ago. We all know about it. For the new viewers that don't know about it, it was when I was on C9. I basically won that regional champs, and I made a roster change. That wasn't a good one.
Yeah.
Justice
the
for
hashtag
Nox.
Justice for Nox movement.
Yeah. And since then, I've really tried to learn from that mistake. And if something's not broke, don't fix it. I mean, obviously, we could have that conversation. There is a conversation there, right? There was a huge free agency recently. I'm sure I could have gotten players like Verholst or some of these top echelon players. Verholst, Jen Burton. These players definitely would have showed a lot of interest in VP if our doors were open. Obviously, behind the scenes conversations and happen, and you have an idea for who they would have went for if the hypotheticals worked out, right? But again, if it isn't broke, don't. It's not. It's whatever. It's just we have a good thing going. I don't want to mess with that, and we're definitely a tournament team. We get absolutely freaking pounded in scrims. we just laugh through it, have a good time. We take it serious, but not too serious that it destroys our team. And on game day, we show up and like you said, my ability to micro or macro, we really get on the same page, and then we fight together. And how effective our communication is makes the game really easy.
Yeah, even leading off that communications part, because I feel like this stems back even to EWC when you started teaming with Lou there, right? When you guys came together under the E8 bleed combo, right? And you and Lou since then have had a pretty interesting dynamic where obviously you're the main core IGL, but there's a lot of feedback from Lou, and anytime you feel unsure of something, seems like you throw it straight to him and he can feed a lot of that IGLing role instead himself. It's like a coach IGL dynamic, but it seems more of a feedback thing instead. What works there between the two of you guys?
I'd say I'd say at EWC you're completely right. I say since EWC it's a little bit backward. I think Slayer honestly probably makes a lot more calls than Lou does. Slayer's just a more vocal player when it comes to how he sees the game or what his suggestions want to be. I am very lucky. You are correct that I have two teammates that do understand the game. They both are very educated on what good macro is versus bad macro, why you should do something, why it makes sense. And if you're doing something and it doesn't make sense, how to get out of it, and not ruin the rest of your game. How to try to rescue it, right? I am very lucky that I have teammates like that, because every now and then there are situations in Apex, it's not common, where, I have to sit there and be like, guys, I just don't got something here that I see that can work. And, sometimes through a different pair of eyes, they might be like, what if we try this, And sure enough, whether it works or doesn't work, it's cool to have a support system like that. Obviously, when I have 3 players on my team that I'm confident in to make a call, if Slayer sees something and I'm on the other side of a building, I have no issue with Slayer being like, yo, we're going to do this. This is what we're doing. Come do this right now with me. I have no issue with either one of my teammates taking over, and they know that. And there's a lot of trust in that system. I just believe that both my teammates are smart. So
yeah, so with having a team full of us as smart in regards to game knowledge as you guys have right now, have you had to deal with any amount of counter calling? Because I understand that is based upon our previous experience. I know that is something that you've dealt with in the past. And how do you guys balance you being the IGL, but then also trusting your teammates to make those calls?
Yeah, we have moments where counter calls happen that are bad, but there's a big difference, right? How I think we draw that boundary and how I think we draw that line is counter calling is more so when the IGL needs to make a call or has made a call, and nothing's being made, right? Which at that point, in my opinion, it is counter calling, but at the end of the day, it's also like the IGL isn't doing his job, which causes someone else to step up. Now, if I'm screaming, do this, do this, do this, and then my other teammate goes, no, 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 do this, like that would be a big issue. But that doesn't happen on my team. It just isn't like a situation we have to deal with. So I can't really relate to it. And then it kind of doubles back into the whole like counter calling thing of I trust my teammates. So if they make a call and I'm not making a call in the moment, I will just listen to them. Like they're not stupid players, and majority of the time they will be right as well. The other fundamental that we have is asking me questions. If they don't want to counter call or they don't feel like they know how to play the game, Zach, what are we gonna do? What do you want to do here? What's the plan? Right? And then that'll force me to start that conversation, right? So that's kind of our little pyramid of having not be shit.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up Slayer too, because I think on this specific episode I had talked to I watched through all of your guys' scrims I watched all through your guys' pro league day last week and this week. And I just felt like it wasn't being talked about enough how much Slayer was doing, at least around, everybody else who kind of pays attention to the league. And it was super impressive. And the one thing I noticed too was, there was a moment when you had first teamed with Slayer, it was you, Slayer, and Luxford, and things got pretty bad at some points. Then it was like really good at some points, and it kind of went back and forth. Ultimately, when it came to sticking with Slayer, was it based purely on your guys' ability to kind of bounce ideas off of each other, like you've been mentioning?
No. If I didn't say the truth on this, they would shit on me, so I don't mind telling the truth. We did tryouts with a bunch of players. It was me and Lou locked in, and because I had a pro league spot, we tried out. We wanted to. God, I can't even remember. I might say some names that didn't happen, but the ones that I do remember, like very clearly, that I asked. We did a tryout with Guild. Guild went to Timmy's team. Guild didn't want to play. We hit up Zap. Zap felt really good about his current team. He said no. We hit up Sykes. Obviously, the team together, that was a no. We hit up at least 4 or 5 players that I've either already teamed with or thought were like super, super high. Oh yeah, we hit up Shuvi that we thought like really highly of, right? We even like at one point were like considering Noct because of how we did at EWC. We were like talking to Noct, and he had his own thing going. So we did try a lot of options, and kind of just ran out of time trying so many different options that ended up just telling us no, like telling me and Liz no. And after we tried our last option, we were just like completely out of time, and we were just like, you know what, like we'll play with Slayer, and like we have to like make the most of the situation. At that point in time, like just being brutally honest, like neither me or Lou, or I guess honestly the rest of the world, knew that like Slayer would kind of grow into the player that he is today. So definitely got really lucky there. Very, very, very lucky. Did not expect Slayer to like kind of blossom like this. I think he's a fucking incredible player. I think he's criminally underrated, and definitely caught a break there in Guild and all these other players saying no, they don't want to play with me and Liam.
Yeah, like you talk about him growing into it, watching his time in LG, he wasn't saying really anything of what he's saying now. Just like watching your guys' last Pro League day, completely different type of player. And then also he had that play on Broken Moon where he's just chucking like 6 sky nades straight over the top into Furia. Insane. Like insane.
Yeah, no, to give a little bit of credit where credit's due, on LG, the environment with Sweet is way different than it is with me. Sweet is a much stronger IGL than me, and you could even argue that he's a much better IGL than me in a lot of those aspects, in the sense of like Slayer didn't really, even if Slayer could say those things on that roster, which I don't think he was supposed to, I don't think Sweet was ever like not giving a plan or like struggling to formulate a plan, even if it was a bad one. So I think there was definitely like less opportunity to speak up than there is on VP currently. But yeah.
Yeah, we've even talked offline before about how he handled the whole situation. It was like, I think it like made a ton of people like Slayer for that reason, right? Like, because it seemed like there was heat on him all the time, but then he's like the underdog, right? Exactly.
Yeah,
The cool thing that I think this could transition to though is watching your last 2 days, you guys are like really flexible with the legend bands, right? Like I feel teams typically have identities, but that first pro league day where you guys come second, you guys got a lot of zone pulls to yourself, so you guys played the zone, especially on Broken Moon, to convert 2 games to wins. Whereas this pro league day, you didn't have those zones. You guys had to play a lot more aggressive for the first 2 Broken Moon games and still put up a lot of kills. That's what I thought was pretty cool coming from all out of you guys, especially even someone like Slayers like there. How have you guys been able to navigate that with creating comps in the legend band now and like trying to like mix like what happens depending on the zone with what you're playing?
Yeah, I mean, the team environment going into this previous weekend wasn't super high, to be honest with you. As players, I don't think it's known publicly, but as players, we know our draft picks for every single pro league week and stuff like that already. I'm not sure if that is public. It might be. And like this week that we just played is by far our hardest week. Like,
yeah, the 20th pick.
It's not only our worst pick, but then the worst like mix of maps. Like ED into Broken Moon is probably like as bad as it's going to get as far as like 3-3 maps is going to go. And then again, it was our worst pick that we have in the entire draft. So like throughout the week of scrims, and keep in mind, we've always gotten slammed in scrims. We're definitely a tournament team. The vibe wasn't great. Like we're optimistic because we know that we're a tournament team and we show up as like a different animal on those days. But it kind of felt like a real big uphill battle. I know internally in my own head, I was telling myself, like, if we could just pull off like a top 6 here, I would just be ecstatic because the top 6 would very likely finish us like first in Pro League or second at worst, which would give us a great seed for this upcoming LAN. And on top of that, that would just be like an accomplishment I'm proud of. Like, yeah, we got hella zones on day 1 and we couldn't win because Hal decided that he was just going to carry the entire fucking ALGS on his back. But that second day, it was all about like scalping as many points as we could, So to finish third was just incredible. And that VOD exists. I had a really bad day on E-District. I was calling like shit. It just wasn't a good day for me at all. And then on Broken Moon, I kind of brought it together. But throughout the entire day, both my teammates played like as good as I could have asked them to. And because of that, we were able to rescue the day, right? We never fell so low below the belt with me making a bad call here or there that the day was like just gone. So it was really awesome for us to have that alpha-based game, that was an incredible game. I mean, we probably should have won that game. I hesitated on a call that Slayer recommended, and even I thought about it on my own, and it was a super good game-winning call to catch NRG off guard on the back of the map, and I just didn't call it, but still was like a 20-point game or 15-point game. And then, of course, the next game, we see the same old experimental lab zone that VP has won like 3 times now. So we'll keep winning those.
Yeah. Go ahead, Wyatt.
I was just gonna say, I mean, that you mentioned that game and how good that game was, and it got me wondering as I was watching it. Last week you guys had some really good zones, but you guys played them perfectly, and you get the wins off of those. This week you have zones that are a little bit more difficult, but you still manage to traverse the entire map, get to a spot where you really could have won that game. I'm wondering from an IGL perspective, and I don't even know if you think of it this way, but is there one you enjoy IGLing from more? I have the zone, I just got to make sure we hold it, or we don't have shit, we just got to run across the map and hope something happens? Like, is there a more fun way, one that you prefer?
Yeah, well, I mean, I played Edge in Apex for like 3 years straight. I freaking hated early rotating. There were many that were like, if you played Edge, you had a chance. If you were stuck on blue armor versus a red armor team, your game's just over. So I've always been big into like playing like the Edge play style or trying to like fight my way through it. So again, like those alpha based games feel a lot more fun for me, or a little bit more fluid, versus, those experimental labs games where I have basically almost never early rotated in my like 5-6 year career. So it's obviously much easier to early rotate than it is to play Edge. Like, that's self-explanatory. However, being capable of like sitting on your hands for 20 minutes and not throwing the game is also like its own skill. Like, I can't tell you how often we see, even the top teams or the bottom teams, they're just in game winning spot, and they're in 5th place with no KP because they're just in game winning spot. Someone makes a small mistake, and that game is a 3-point game, but it should have been like 25. So they're different skill sets. I prefer playing edge though.
But what I was also gonna throw out too is like in terms of the POI draft, as you're mentioning, I don't know if some of the listeners like actually realize that with ED there's only like 20 drops, and so when you guys have that 20th pick, Broken Moon, isn't there only 20 on ED as well? I thought both only have 20. Pretty sure E District only has 20 as well. Yeah,
you might be right on both.
Yeah,
Broken Moon is what went first in the draft.
Oh, did it? Because like
I think so.
Regardless,
or maybe it was ED. I don't know.
Yeah, what I see here is you guys took your E District pick first. At 20th, and you guys took Canal Plaza because I'm assuming there was nothing else open.
Whereas, you might. I think you're right, and I was wrong.
Yeah, and then after you went with because everyone right now has been taking, for the most part, they're like E District POIs first. What I'm knowing like from week to week. And I assume that was just because like there's only the 20. Canal Plaza shit. So if you're 20th place, you're gonna get that. You have no resources, whereas at least you're able to get Foundry at 21st still on BM. So. You can like make some work with that there. It's a decent edge POI.
Yeah, that's something that's been like an internal dialogue inside like the top teams of Pro League that I really, really, really cannot explain how much I dislike. I've been very vocal about it. Pro League is like arguably the weakest it's ever been right now. It's a lot of teams that are learning and or new and or just have no idea what's going on. So what happens in these drafts is people see like 3 people pick a map and they feel pressured to pick the map. And it's really disappointing because like, you'll see these like more educated teams just not doing that. So for example, when, the first 3 picks of the draft are ED, those guys that are like 3 through 6, like if they pick ED as well, then we've done 6 ED POIs in a row. It's going to go all the way down to 20. Like they're just going to pick all 20 ED POIs. And it's so frustrating for me because it's like, if you actually snake draft like the best POIs down the list, like who actually ends up with 2 good POIs instead of one like mediocre or one insane POI and then a really shit one, it like dramatically changes how your draft looks. And it's so frustrating because it's like this new thing that is happening in Pro League. This has never happened before in any draft we ever did in scrims or anything. It's brand new to this Pro League, and it's because of these like newer players that are learning. And it's just so frustrating to see drafts go like that because both these maps have incredible POIs that just naturally set you up for success regardless of what zone it. And people are just ignoring it to take subpar POIs in the other map because they feel pressured by the picks above them. And it's kind of just disappointing because like, I don't know, it's just frustrating.
Yeah, 18 picks went on E District first.
I mean, Quarantine went like 16th or something, I'm pretty sure. And then Terraform was like 8, something like that.
Yeah, it's all over the place. Like, it's pretty, like I said, like pretty interesting. And I assumed you guys were forced into Canal Plaza because of the fact 18 picks went.
Yeah.
I wasn't even sure where Canal Plaza was on the map until I looked up the map view. Right, like because like I've like been in lobbies before where they name them all different things. Those like no name POIs. There's one in front of a resort. There's like 2 in front of stadium, and like they're just shit POIs. They're not.
Yeah. Well, the reason we picked it is because of champs, right? Like going into this upcoming LAN, I'm on VP. I'm the number 1 seed in the world, which is a very different environment than my previous LAN at champs, where our picks were like 19, 15, 14, 15, 13. And then our final draft for champs was like 14th pick. And those are not good picks. Those are really bad picks because it's not snake draft where it comes down and back up. It just goes down and then resets and then goes down again. So you get screwed when you're like the last pick, right? So we had to get really comfortable from a really bad POI. And that POI was Canal Plaza. So going into this Pro League, like whenever we have to scapegoat something, we'll just pick Canal. It's just where we have the most time from. I mean, we've even played a LAN from there that we succeeded with. So we just... That's kind of why we took it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I was going back and looking through. I wanted to listen to our old interview, kind of see what was going on back in those days versus now. And speaking of the maps, we had asked you about Broken Moon, and you said that there was potential there. Do you still feel like Broken Moon has potential to be competitive? You still like Broken Moon in the rotation?
Yeah, it's kind of like. just a fucking pain in the ass when they do stuff like this. I do think Brickerman has a lot of potential. Just to answer your question first, I still believe that. It's like, for example, Storm Point. Everyone loves Storm Point. People would say it's arguably the best map in the game. It's not. If it's not first, it's definitely second on like every pro player's tier list or every competitive player's tier list for what is the most competitive map. And you know, when Storm Point was coming out, I don't think I'm under NDA for this anymore, but we, like, pros and content creators were play testing that map rigorously. I'm not talking about like, oh, we like did this and that. I'm talking about like trees were like gray cylinders. Like, we play tested that map from the bare bones up, right? And those hills that have like rocks just scattered all over, like, for example, right underneath Thunderwatch, that hill that has rocks everywhere, that did not look like that when they first sent that to it. Like, we had to like, us had to go, yo, this hill sucks. You can never do anything here. We need to add rocks here, 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 so you could actually walk up this hill if that zone somehow did that. Same with like the spiders above Launchpad, right? Like, these chokes are really hard to push, but at least there's cover going spot to spot. We're on many other maps, especially seen in like Broken Moon and Olympus. The chokes are death. They're not like, you know, like Falcons are getting 2v3'd by 54-year-old dads in a sofa on a 70-inch TV sitting 15 feet away, right? Like, these aren't normal chokes. These are like, all right, your game is going to end here, so what could you accomplish earlier? And it's really disappointing that we have to play something like that when we've given them feedback like that internally, privately, because we've had the opportunity to work on these maps in the past, and they come out with being some of, you know, the fan favorite and competitive favorite maps. So it's a real big bummer when we tell them like, hey, you guys have 3 really good maps. Please do not force like top 2 worst map on us. And then they just do. So it is really disappointing. It does have a lot of potential. The potential would be like some of those chokes that you see that are just unpushable. It's really disappointing. Zip rails are really, really, really healthy for that map in casual play. In competitive play, it speeds up the pace of some of the edge POIs and speeds up the pace of some of the third parties. And because of like because of how smart some of these IGLs are, and they can play the game of chess and understand the next 4 moves of the teams around them, you can just get away with so much because of how much distance you can travel with those. And, you know, it really is disappointing we're playing it right now, but we didn't get a choice.
I think that kind of spins back to what you were saying about a lot of people like having to learn so much. You guys got Legend Ban, POI draft for some of these new teams, Broken Moon and World's Edge removed, all in this pro league all at once, which kind of creates a whole situation where it's just everyone's doing whatever, right? Because like even by playing with the Legend ban, there's so many new characters that was another thing I was going to ask you about. Like, how are you guys, like, typically you guys play so much on 3 characters, you get this like mastery around them, but now like you're throwing in Fuse like late in the game, you're switching up a comp completely 6 games later, and when LAN comes around could be even things you've never played before. How are you guys managing that, like mastering like different characters?
We have an analyst. I don't even know how much I can say about this.
That's an okay answer.
I'm going to be vague. I'll just be super vague. We have an analyst who has a lot of data on every legend and how they perform in scrims and how they perform casually and then how they perform in ranked. And we have all the data on like average lifetime and about 15 other statistics. And you have to take them all with a grain of salt because, again, scrims or ranked have nothing to do with what an ALGS day looks like. And everyone knows that. You gotta take it with a grain of salt, but more often than not, those statistics point correct. They are wrong. So you can't read it like a religion, but you definitely can read it and, you know, formulate your own opinion off of it and be somewhat reliable with it. That's kind of something we did. You know, we used those statistics and we also used our own opinions and made a spin-off of what those statistics said with our own, what we think is good and what our players are capable of playing at the highest level. And then that's kind of how we pick our legends throughout the tournament.
Yeah, because it's not like you guys are like, you know, like some people I think assume the draft is just, okay, Ash got banned, we fit in Ash. Newcastle got banned, who can replace Newcastle? No, like Newcastle gets banned, you guys are swapping out the Rampart too, for example, right?
Yeah, we have Yeah, we have like a bunch of audibles and stuff that we do. Like if there's like certain trigger characters that if they get banned early or something weird like that, like it changes the way we play the rest of the day. Like one character gets banned, that character complements the other two characters so much that we don't play those other two characters for the rest of the block. So in a hypothetical where that character got banned game 1, it's basically like they banned 3 characters from us, right? And again, that I have to be vague because I don't want to like say too much because obviously Falcons, Under Thieves, Shopify, we all have our own things and they wouldn't even listen to me anyway. But it's the bottom teams that I don't want to be helping out too much.
Do you expect the way that the legend bans, do you think that they'll be going substantially different with all of the different playstyles from the different regions at this coming up LAN than it has been in your first 2 weeks of Pro League so far?
Yeah, that's a great question. That is a fantastic question. We have been talking about that internally with other pros and other teams, coaches and analysts. And yeah, I mean, in other regions, we see crypto getting banned like game 1, game 2, usually. In other regions, we're seeing like there's days where like a Watson got banned one time. That's what I saw. I was like, dude, like the day that we see Watson get banned in NA, let's just fucking like. So like, I mean, it only happened one time in a scrim block, if I remember correctly, but and I'd imagine it doesn't happen anymore, but you get my point, right?
Yeah.
So on at LAN, it is going to be very, very dramatically different with the bans, but I mean, it could work in your favor, right? Like for example, I think Falcons are a good Newcastle team. So if they get to play Newcastle for 6 games, they're going to do really well. Versus like in NA, they're never going to get to play 6 Newcastle games, right?
So, I mean, you've come from, the earlier days of when everything was kind of like you had to fight for your POIs. You basically just ran the same comps all the time. Now so much has changed. Do you ever wish you could, like, is there one change that they have made that you're like, I really wish they'd go back on this one? I mean, we have so many now, POI draft, legend bans, different maps, all that kind of stuff. Is there one you kind of miss, or maybe not even necessarily you wish you could go back to, but you just miss it?
Not necessarily. As a competitor, I hate match point because it doesn't reward the best team, which I think is stupid, but I understand it's healthy for the game. I think legend bans, I was more optimistic about legend bans than majority of pros. I thought it'd be a cool way to spice things up and give like challenger circuit kids a chance. I mean, we've had like a freaking hierarchy of who could win in Apex for God knows how many years now because these players are just so much better than everyone else. So it's cool to, throw a wrench in it and see if, they're still at the top and stuff like that. I'm sure they don't like it, obviously. So I've been in support of all of that. I wasn't necessarily a big fan of the POI draft. I am a fan of it now because I see the benefits of it. However, when you are one of the best teams pre-POI draft, you would just get the best POIs on the map and people wouldn't waste their time messing with it. And, playing like freaking Bill SkyWest Trials is pretty easy. So it's like, I wasn't a big fan of the POI draft. I was super against it. I was even saying brain dead stuff like people literally might retire off this change. I was saying some of the dumbest shit I've ever said, which is a statement for me. I ended up really liking it. I think it's super healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think for not just for the players, but I do think just watching it's been a lot better. And I think when you go to Sapporo and you've got an entire panel dedicated to the POI draft, I think it just kind of expands the sport overall. Just kind of gets more involvement, more people talking about it. So I think it's positive. I just always wondered from a perspective of a player who's played for a while what they would think and how they would feel about that. I kind of wanted to go back to your backstory a little bit as well, because it's been so long since we've had you on. There might be a lot of people who, I mean, it was before YouTube when we were uploading these things on YouTube. So I was listening back to that old episode and I caught something that I didn't quite remember, but you had said that you had gotten your first opportunity with FlyQuest just from being a Discord moderator. Do you want to go through that story again real quick?
Yeah, I wasn't really a gamer before this, like Sweet Dreams or Howl or Dropped or a lot of these like big names in Apex. These guys have been playing competitive video games for 10 to 15 years. I mean, these guys were pro in H1 in 2014 or 2016. A lot of the guys I'm competing against have been doing this for years. They understand the etiquette or so many other aspects that had advantages over me. Whereas, like, I didn't even really start gaming until 2019 in my frickin' college dorm room. And, you know, I blew off some classes playing too much Fortnite, enjoying, you know, college life. And in the process of that, I'm a very competitive person growing up playing traditional sports my whole life. In the process of that, I got really good at Fortnite really fast. I got scouted by a T1 talent scout for Fortnite, and we were close friends. I was never good enough to go pro in Fortnite because, again, I was just brand new to video games. I was damn good, but I wasn't good enough to get signed to T1, you know, be standing next to Faker. But I had that friendship, and he straight up told me, he was brutally honest. He was like, dude, you're really good, but it's just a little too late for you to kind of get in this game unless you're like a generational talent. And he tipped me off. He was like, hey, I'll be honest with you. Like, there's a new game that they privately reached out to me. The company reached out to me. It's coming out in 2 months. It's called Apex Legends. It's supposed to be similar to Fortnite in like the way the game works. You won't be late to this game. If you really want to have a shot at anything like this would be it. And that was like 2 months before the game even came out. So, of course, I wasted the next 2 months at college doing absolutely nothing, just being a piece of shit, playing more Fortnite. And, yeah, I get back in. For those of you that don't know, Apex came out on January 5th. And I remember it being like January 3rd, and I was like, oh, God, like, I have to go back to school. Like, I can't, like, have another bad semester. I have to, like, do this. But then I was also like, this game's coming out. I'm like, I actually have a chance. And, you know, I'm this little optimistic 19-year-old. So, yeah, I screwed off college and kind of went all in on Apex. And I had no relationships with anyone because, again, remember, if you guys remember the players getting signed, it was like freaking Prodigy Aces were on TSM and T-Hump and stuff like that. It was like Bendo. Like, none of these players that ever lasted or even were that good, no offense to them, it was just more so about like picking up talent from previous games that had a name that could compete early on, right? So I had no way in, regardless of how good I was, which at the time wasn't good. So what I did is I talked to my friend at T1. T1, the org, ended up founding the first ever Apex Legends Pro League. And it was ran through a Discord called the APL. And I was telling them that, like, yeah, this is what I want to do. Like, whatever you need me to do, I'll do. So they asked me, they're like, do you want to be a moderator and just run the script? That way that like every pro or every amateur or everyone will unironically have to see your name at some point. So that if you happen to become good, they will know who you are. I was like, dude, if that's the only entry I got, why would I ever say no? So I was a Discord moderator for the first ever Apex Legends Pro League, which got me like 2 of the worst CC kids that were willing to play with me. And I backpacked this shit out of them. And then I got scouted by FlyQuest's talent like coordinator. He hit me up privately, joined them later on. And that's how that went. So yeah, I was Discord moderator to FlyQuest. It was pretty cool.
Was that team Monsoon and Lou?
Yeah.
Full
yeah,
circle.
and at the time, that was
today.
like Monsoon at that time was, I would say, like right below Imperial How, like as far as people who knew exactly where, you know,
it's like Mon, then like Retzi probably, or like Ace, right? Or no, it was Hal, then like Retzi or Ace, and then on after that. I think I said that right.
Yeah. And when they picked you up, was it because you'd reached that level, or was it kind of just like?
No, it was like a shot in the dark. They were like, we're going to take this risk on this kid, Zach, because he like works really hard. And like Lou was like getting hackusated and like banned every other day because he was just the greatest player in the game. And Mon was getting hackusated because he does that weird freaky shit where he shakes his mouse, and it was weird, but he was consistent. So it didn't make sense to people. And then I was just some like random little piece of shit college kid that nobody knew of, nobody ever heard of. I was just some little fucker that had a good work ethic.
Would you attribute like your skill and how you develop just to the work ethic? A lot of people, I feel like we see these young kids come in, they just like have insane talent. Did you feel like when you started the game, you had that at all, or was just grinding?
No, God, no. I mean, dude, I was shit for years. I mean, I was a professional for many years, and my biggest achievement at that point in time was, with Noct during that regional championship with Naughty as well. I had many LAN appearances and stuff where I couldn't play, where we would get like 10th or 14th or 17th, 15th, but like saying you got 17th at a LAN, that isn't an accomplishment. That's kind of like a fuck me,
Yeah, but like I think the funny thing is you've been competing with pros since the day the game, like since the early days the game came out. So you're comparing yourself to those top pros compared to the average Apex player. Like you were unreal at the game, right? Like, and that's what I was saying. Like, did you even feel like you had that? You think you really were able to hang even though you were average?
I mean, again, like there is a reason that people say in the history of the game that I am the most improved player, and I will forever be the most improved player that will ever touch this game.
Yeah.
I was that bad originally. I really was. It sounds hard to believe because I'm like the number 1 seed going to LAN. I'm arguably like one of the better players in the world right now. Far from the best, but I'm up there. You could make arguments like that. And at that point in time, man, definitely wouldn't recognize me. Definitely had to work really hard over those years to grow. Obviously, now I slack off a little bit more, but to put it in perspective, I have just over 18,000 hours in Apex. Just a little bit over like 2 years, if I'm doing the math correctly in my head. And I think at maximum, maybe AFK hours would equal like 1,000, like 1,300. That's me being generous. So I have almost 2 hours on the game, or 2 years, excuse me, 2 years on the game. I worked hard to have the thought process and skill that I do have now, which obviously isn't even like perfect. I still got some to go.
No, I mean, kudos. In all those hours though, I noticed they're putting Slayer on Ash. They really don't want you Ash porting into Zone 5 again, huh? Even though it was 3 years ago.
They don't.
No, that's me. That's me. That's actually me. I like refuse to play it. I won't play that character, even though like there's situations where like it makes the most sense for me to play it. I won't play it. It's like I don't know. Everyone knows that I got tough skin when it comes to this stuff. So the major moments or the actual things never bother me. The only thing that could ever bother me is myself and how I get in my own head. And I mean, that Ash portal, that left a mark for sure, man. I don't think you will ever see me play that character again.
I was kidding. I didn't know that that Ash portal actually left a mark.
I'm serious. Like, we had internal conversations of like, yo, I think you should play Ash, Zach. And I was like, I will never play that character again. You can learn it or you can learn it. I will never play this again.
Damn.
And they were making jokes and we were all making jokes like, dude, you get 2 portals now. Like, you can send us in the zone and then send us out of zone. Like, you're fine now, bro. Like, they literally made this patch for you.
We got the ult to get back, man.
Yeah, I'm not playing that shit.
That's hilarious.
That's actually hilarious. That's so funny. They were like kind of tiptoeing. Like, there is a second one. So if the first one goes wrong, we can get you back. Like, that's funny.
I can play the rest of them, but not that one.
Yeah. It is fun. It is kind of crazy though to look through, and I kind of love when we haven't had a guest on for so long, because listening to where they were so long ago, it's nice to bring them back on. And listening to yours at the time, you were just starting up BBB. That was Bald, Browse, and Brit. That was you,
that was
Design,
a roster,
and Chaotic.
And that was a roster.
That squad was just starting up. Enoch, I think, was the coach of that roster.
He was the coach.
Like I said, so, that was a roster.
Yeah, so we had that roster go down. And just thinking about where you were at that time versus now, it's like a night and day difference. Like, just and even just in public perception, like there was moments where people were like, can Zach get back to those C9 days, especially around that BBB time? And when you look through and you see where you're at right now, you're sitting at number 1 in Pro League, 5th at Champs. You've had all these different accomplishments happen. Now, what was the biggest improvement you made? Like, what changed from BBB to now? Like, what were the things you had to change in your own game to get to this point?
It's kind of a double-edged sword, but I think it's my confidence. I think it's just I just never gave up on myself, no matter how bad I was. Because I had moments where I would make some really bad calls and say some really dumb things, And I I have always had incredibly good accountability, like arguably the best of anyone. And I think like the accountability mixed with my confidence is what got me here. Is when it is my mistake or my issue, or I could have done something different. Nobody has to tell me anything, dude. I own that stuff so fast. And if it's something that I don't agree on, we can talk it out. And if I feel that they're right, I just say, you know what, man, I was wrong. I think you're right here. This is on me. This is what I could have done. I still think you could have done this differently and it would have helped, but I think you're right. This is my fault, you know?
Yeah.
And then you mix that with someone who just like never ever gives up on themselves when they get down or things go bad. It's like you're good. You're just going to be positive trending, and you know sooner or later you will have that breakout. And I did around that time. I mean, that BBB roster was really good. Chaotic was a great player. Design was a great player. I was mediocre at the time, and honestly, the roster was like going pretty good at first. We were like 6th in Pro League at one point, or 5th in Pro League at one point. Yeah, it went haywire, partially due to Design's internet issues and, you know, Chaotic's throwing parties mid scrims and shit like that. These are all fun times, by the way. You dissing them. It just didn't work out, you know.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy too because you talk about that accountability. I literally watched it happen in this last Pro League day. There was like 2 or 3 games where you start off and you're saying like, why didn't this happen? Lou and Slayer explained it to you, and you kind of take a moment. You're like, you know what? Okay, yeah, I think I see what's going on. And I don't think you see that from a lot of IGLs nowadays. I really don't. Like, it's very hard to get them to admit anything, really.
Yeah, I mean, the accountability is really hard because, especially when you're the IGL, you have like a, it's almost like a superpower that other players don't have to like play chess and Apex and like control other people and force them to do things. You literally see the game differently. So when you like have this vision of how you want the game to play out and you had the ability to play it out that way, and your teammates or you do something that results in it not going the way that your vision, you know, sends it off, it can be really fucking frustrating. And I think a lot of IGLs don't understand that when it doesn't go your way, that doesn't mean your game ends. That means you just got to think on your feet. The game isn't over. You just have to do something now that is, you know, like adapting, you know, you're on the fly. And that's where it gets hard, right? And like that game that you're talking about was the City Hall Bowl game.
Yeah.
And we had the best plan you possibly could have had for that zone close. And as it happens, you know, a team just evacs and lands on us when we're nowhere near zone. And I had no choice but to make a call instantly. That wasn't what we originally wanted to do, because we couldn't do it anymore because someone threw a wrench in it and landed underneath us. And I didn't make a call. I did not act on the fly. We all died because of it. And I was really frustrated that it didn't play out the way I wanted it to. But there's nobody to blame but myself.
Yeah, it's just super rare to see stuff like that. And I think it's commendable. And I think it's a big reason why I think we've seen the jump from where you were then to where you were now. And it's been super impressive, man. It's been fun to watch. I'm getting near the end here with everything I've got, but I do have one question from match day number 2, I believe. There was a moment where you and Slayer are both lagging, and me and Jumbo were watching this together, and we were kind of a little bit confused. When Slayer was saying he was lagging, Lou was like adamant that he did not want to hear about Slayer lagging. Is there a reason why that is? Is there something like that happened behind the scenes?
Why does Lou hate
why
lag
does Lou
and
hate
hearing
lag?
about it so much?
Why does he not want to hear about it?
Wait, can you talk me through what game it was or what zone it was?
It's
Game
one of the ones
2.
you won on Broken Moon. Is it game 2? Yeah, game 2.
game
So it
Broken
was
Moon.
like our first set of game.
Yeah. Yeah, match day 2. Like he doesn't mean your second day. He means the second day of Pro League.
Yeah, match day 2. And so
Okay. And it was the game we won?
Yes.
Yeah, you guys win.
And there was the game that was like back production yard that we wrapped around front production yard and won, right? That was the game?
No, that was game 3. It was the one before that one.
Yeah,
it was the experimental labs game where I took the Ultra TP and died to nice guys ratting. Okay, that game.
Yeah, that one. So at one point, you and Slayer both lag, but then Slayer says, I'm lagging. Lou says, Slayer, I don't want to hear you talk about it. And then Slayer goes, hey, I'm lagging. And he's like, please, Slayer, don't talk about it. You're going to piss me off or something like that.
Yeah, we have like, we have some like ticks. we have some ticks on our team that are a little interesting. If you go back in that match day and you remember the production yard game, there's at one point where me and Slayer are on the brink of death after Slayer got crabered by Funk. And Lou is like, you guys can take TP if you want. You guys can take TP if you want. And me and Slayer are both like 10 HP. So neither of us reply to him. And Lou goes like, what the fuck is going on? Is my mic muted?
Is my mic muted?
Guys, what the like, and he starts freaking out.
Yeah.
Like, and if you go listen to that dialogue, I'm like, Lou, shut the fuck up. Like, you're going schizo. Your mic isn't muted. Sorry, we were focused. It's our bad. But just shut the fuck up so we can play the game.
Yeah.
Like, sorry we didn't reply to you, but like, let us focus as well, you know? And it's the same thing in the next game. Like, when something like that happens, it's just like one of our weird ticks we have, or just like almost like argue or like bicker about something so silly. I think one thing for Lou, and even somewhat for me, is like pretty big on like not making excuses. And when things are a valid excuse, like understanding that they exist, but not playing into them. So like, for example, when Slayer's lagging, if Lou and I can still play the game and there's like kills and a lot of really good things to happen, like the last thing you want to hear is your teammate go, I'm lagging, I can't play the game, I can't play the game, I can't play the game. It's like, dude, the first time you said it or the second time you say it, I already know you're out of the game. That doesn't mean our game's over, right? Like, we still want to play. And I imagine Lou got frustrated because he just didn't want to hear it. He was more probably just like, all right, like, we're a fucking duo. How do we win this game or min-max our points? Like, you know, he's like flipping the switch in his head of like, how do I handle this? And Slayer's just in his ear like, yo, guys, I'm still lagging. It's probably just like, shut up, dude. Like, I don't care.
That's
like,
what we thought.
Yeah.
That's what we thought. That's what me and Joe, because we watched it like 4 times.
Yeah.
We're like, what
It
is
was just a
happening
funny reaction to it because of like how quick he was like, don't talk about it. And then he calls back to Slayer, like, Slayer, look here. And Slayer's just like floating in the air because he can't move. And he's like, I'm lagging right now. And he's like, don't talk about it. He's like, Slayer's like, okay, I'm sorry. But he still just like can't move.
Oh, that's funny.
So yeah, it's just a funny thing more than anything.
It's funny because if you actually do remember that game in specific, we actually almost lost that game because Lou lagged out.
Yeah.
I was just about to bring
So
up.
there's some irony in there, right?
The
Slayer's
part.
lagging early game, and Lou's telling him to shut the fuck up, and then we're in 2 squads alive, 3v3, and Lou completely lags out of the game.
Yeah, we mentioned that. We're like, but Luke didn't talk about it very much because he knows not to talk
He said,
about
guys,
it.
I'm lagging, and that was it.
Yep. No, it was. We figured that was the case, but we didn't know if there had been something that happened like in scrims or behind the scenes that caused that. Like, I figured your explanation was the reason why, because you just don't want to hear about it in that moment. You guys were like in a dire spot to try to win that game.
I mean, it's a mix of both. It's a mix of like, you don't want to hear it, but the other 50% of it, maybe even a little bit more, is just like, you just don't want to hear it. It's just the last thing you want to hear. You literally have a free win on a pro league day that determines your LAN seeding and potentially qualifying for EWC, and you are in a free game-winning spot, and your teammate's saying, I'm lagged out of the game. Like that. That's just not what you want to hear.
Not what you want to hear. Not what you want to hear. And then he ends up lagging, which is hilarious. And still, somehow, you guys won the game. By the way, your Newcastle wall, Slayer was like literally one shot, and you got it in the spot before he went down almost perfectly. Otherwise, I don't know if you guys win that game, because then that would have been 1v2, 1v3, I think. So that was crazy. That game all the way around was absolutely insane, and has one of my
that
favorite
was an
moments.
insane game.
Real quick, want to ask something because you just mentioned the Newcastle wall. It made me quickly think back to Japan. That last final game, Jay just released a whole video about this and was talking about it with me, like breaking down that final fight and the slam. And it does, like, you turn ever so slightly that it doesn't knock Zidane
Just
out,
one of them.
and he can like pump you. Did you intentionally turn to be able to like block LG there off, or
No, it's like I have to turn the wall to like boop them the direction I want to boop them. So I easily could have landed on Navi. I don't even know who they were on at the time. I could have easily landed on them and like booped them, towards Climatizer, but that would just give my back to sweeten them. So basically what that would do is just guarantee that LG win the tournament, because I'm going to kill all 3 of them to zone, basically guaranteed. And if they don't die to zone, they're going to be 1 HP and literally not be able to shoot their guns. My teammates don't have a bubble or a Newcastle pack, so they're just standing in the open. So if I kill all of Navi on my own, and then my teammates are staying in no man's land, and all of LG is sitting inside of a bubble, we basically are just throwing the entire game. We're just saying, all right, LG, here's your free one.
And at that time, you didn't know that that was Go Next, but you knew that that was LG, right?
Other way around. You guys called that you had to focus Go Next because you knew they were a cat team. Both cat teams.
Yeah, we knew it was a cat team, so we thought it was Alliance because there was only 2 at the time.
Yeah,
so we thought it was Alliance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that was the thought process. Was like, if there's like margins, right? If there's anyone in the world that's gone over it 1,000 times, it's me. I've gone over it with Waltzy, Zero, literally everyone I've sat in a Discord with, rewatched that endgame one. There's like 2 things that we, talk about with hindsight that could have changed the outcome of that game. One, I could have walled on ultimate low ground where we were, which obviously was a disgustingly bad spot.
Yeah, it was rough.
But if I did wall that spot, Blue's bubble was on a 4-second cooldown at the time, which wasn't something we were talking about. And if I got that wall down, we would have gotten those 4 seconds. And then we would have been the very last Gibby Dome. And there's a better chance for sure that we win. The only other thing is when I'm doing that Newcastle wall, I have to boop all 3 of them. If I boop one of them, I die in the back, we lose. If I boop 2 of them, I die in the back. I have to boop all 3 of them. And if I boop them into zone, OG wins for free, right? So I have to boop all 3 of them into LG's dome.
LG, yeah.
Yeah. Which means I have to like literally do a perfect wall. And if you go watch it, I mean, it's not centimeters. It is like legitimate millimeters from booping Zidane also into LG with the other 2. And if that did happen, that would have been like one of the craziest solo plays to force a win. Because we were in by far the worst spot.
Yeah, it would have been unreal. It was just like, it's literally like millimeters that it boops him to the left rather than to the right. Yeah.
And you got to remember, like, we had so much steam at that point because, like, we started out the tournament really rough. And then on the back half of it, started getting all of our points. So I've talked about this a million times. If we win that game instead of getting 2nd or 3rd, whatever we got, we did the math on the points. That would have actually put us in 4th instead of 5th. And then there would have been one more game. And, any time that you're on game 4 in like freaking 17, and then by game 8 or 9, whatever it was, you're in freaking 4th, like, momentum is everything in this game. So is confidence. I would like to think that we either win champs or we finish top 3.
Yeah.
Well,
like if we had another game there.
EWC is a perfect example where like Alliance was in like fucking 8th and then jumps up to 3rd and then wins. And same with LG. They were like in 16th and they finished 3rd after winning a game in like game like 9 and then being able to carry that and finish 3rd overall. So yeah.
And it's the opposite for like me and Waltzy.
Yeah.
Waltzy and I were 1st and 2nd going into game 5.
Exactly. And then like
we finished 11th and 12th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tough.
Anyways.
Did you guys have any others, or E, do you want to hit him with it?
I can hit him with it.
Let's do it.
All right. So the question that I asked, you already answered the question that I ask everybody who comes on the pod because you've already been on before. But I do have a question that I ask everybody who comes on for that 2nd time, and that is from the last time you came on the pod to now, what is the most important thing you've learned?
Shit.
E gets deep.
What is the most important thing I've learned? Honestly, I could say something simple that would just be that everyone would believe. It's just don't make changes when it doesn't make sense to. Like, again, like, we're in that off season and we could pick up freaking Verhols. And we don't do that. Stay with Slayer. And, a lot of people in that time were like giving me shit. Like, dude, are we really having this conversation that like you'd rather have Slayer on Cat and these roles than Verhols? Like, are we even having this conversation? Like, how do we even open the story? And, as time goes on, obviously I made the decision I made with it, and I don't regret it. Even if we weren't doing as good as we were now, I still wouldn't regret it. I have a lot of faith in Slayer. I think Slayer's criminally underrated. I think he proved it at champs. And yeah, that's what I would say. Probably don't force changes. The grass isn't always greener. You got to remember that like super teams don't exist. Like the best super team ever formed is Falcon. These guys haven't won anything yet. By the time this comes out, they may have already won the Open. They haven't won anything. I think they got like 2nd, 3rd, 2nd, or something weird like that. But I don't know, man. You want to have someone that isn't a superhero. want to have someone that can like play their role and understand that like the spotlight isn't going to be on them, but what they're doing and contributing to the team is the only reason the spotlight ends up on somebody.
Yeah.
And, everyone needs Slayer. That guy is way, way, way more valuable than he will ever get credit for.
I love it.
Shout
I love
out
it.
Slayer.
Shout out Slayer, man. Shout out Slayer. Well, Zach, it's been a pleasure having you back on, man. It's always great to talk to you once again. Good luck at the Open, and hopefully the next time we talk to you, we've got that trophy. It's eluded, but I think there's a chance. There's a good chance here as we head into the Open, man. Thanks for hopping on, man. On, man. We appreciate it, bro.
Yeah, of course. Thank you very much, man. Good day, guys.
All right, ladies and gents, we're going to bring in a brand new segment here, something I've wanted to do for a long time, and I'm glad we're doing it now. We're going to do the regional recap. We're going to go through all of the other regions. We mostly talk NA. Everybody knows that. But we're going to talk about some of the other regions and get some names out there for people who maybe only get time to catch NA. Maybe you're not able to catch all the other regions based off time zone, whatever it may be, and you want to know what's going on, but you don't fully get the availability to do so. So we're going to run through and talk about some of these teams real quick. So at the very least, when you do get some time to watch these other regions, you know who to watch out for, and you know the names that are popping off inside the chat. So let's kick it off. Dawn, let's start with EMEA. So far, EMEA, we already know Navi's been going crazy. We're talking about our current LAN champions from Sapporo, formerly Go Next. They seem to be still doing great. How is everything else going in EMEA?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been. It feels like at times dominated by Navi with the way that they've shown out. And, again, I think like we've talked about before, kind of that championship mentality of we want to prove everybody that this wasn't a fluke sort of idea. So they've been definitely popping off, leading overall in the EMEA Pro League right now, which we'll get to some of the standings here in a minute. But in terms of what happened this week, Team Nemesis ended up taking the match day. Pretty close day for the most part, only about a 10-point gap between them and second, which second was Kashera's team called 10K. But Team Nemesis, newer org that's come to Apex, Remix Powers, who is on the Noctum roster, is a part of that team. He led them with 17 kills that particular match day. Big thing with that region is just, again, like that seems to be a region that definitely mirrors a lot of what NA does at times. NA and EMEA kind of seem to be close together, while the two APAC regions kind of seem to be close together in terms of just compositions with who they pick. But yeah, overall, Team Nemesis take match day 3. Really good job by them. Again, some other notable names from the region. Alliance takes 6th overall on the day. Moving down the list, we've got Aurora actually only finishes at 13. NIP, which is Nasky's team, ends up 15th on the day. And then a team like FaZe Clan, unfortunately, still not quite found their form, and they got 19th on the day. So a roster that's still trying to find themselves with the new additions of Zane and Tyler, along with Synetic. So we'll hopefully see them pick it up when it comes to the LAN. But overall, with EMEA and where they stand in terms of the Pro League after one rotation, we've got Navi in first, Infinite in second, Forbidden in third, Alliance in 4th, and Team Nemesis in 5th, with the other notable being Go Next down there in 6th place.
There we go. So that's EMEA so far. A lot of people give respect to that former Noctum roster. Like every time we've talked to somebody from EMEA, talk about how good that team was, and it's unfortunate that they kind of had to split up. But that you hear that all the time from that roster. So keep an eye on those guys. Let's move over to APAC North, Don. Kind of go through what's going on in the APAC North region.
Yeah, so unlike EMEA and NA, they had to play 2 match days this past weekend. So they had match day 2 and match day 3. That was the same thing in APAC South when we get there. So there's 2 groups to go through. Again, we'll go through that real quick. Team Soten won match day 2 on a tiebreaker with Arnhem, a very hotly contested day. A lot of different teams ended up taking the lead at one point or another. Literally down to 4th place. It was only a 5-point gap. So a lot of things happened in that particular match day. Really good, big shout out to them. I believe, if I remember correctly, which I'm going to pull this up as quickly as I can so we don't have too much of a delay, but I believe they might be a PSQ team, which is a big shout out to them. If they are, which yes, they are. So a big shout out to them for showing out. They don't have any Pro League or previous LAN experience. So definitely a big surprise there. But again, big shout out to them. for performing well. And then moving into match day 3, we actually had Reject, which is the team of Urice and Mia K and Rags. Big shout out to that roster. One of the craziest pop-offs I've ever seen from a team after they won, which is a great thing to see. Again, Urice, for those who don't know, was originally here in North America, had competed in prior pro leagues and was a content creator, but actually learned Japanese and moved over to the region as a content creator at first, but then decided to take on pro league this particular split. And so far, so good, winning the match day with Reject. So big shout out to them. Another notable was GHS and Nosy Fox getting second and third, and Fnatic getting fourth in this particular match day. So Fnatic is still continuing to play pretty well so far. Big really storyline out of APAC North, which it's been one of the crazier storylines to see. The overall world kill leader through one rotation is a guy named Ulariman. He does not use the P20s for the most part. I've seen him mainly run Eva as his close range, and the guy is absolutely ridiculous. If you saw Privacy was watching them during their scrims today, Privacy was even like, who the hell is this guy? Because he's actually going crazy. His mechanics are something to watch. So definitely keep an eye out. He plays for GHS, who GHS actually leads the region right now overall in the Pro League. And so definitely keep an eye out for Ulariman. Just, again, incredible fragger to watch. Again, leads the world with 54 kills through 2 match days, which is absolutely insane because, like, I mean, some teams don't even get that in, I mean, a pro league. Like, it's pretty crazy to see how well he's popped off so far. But yeah, again, running through the standings real quick over in APAC North, we got GHS leading in first. Fnatic is in second, so big shout out to that roster as they made big changes. RRX is in third, Newbie is in fourth, and Arnim is in fifth. So a lot of, I think, surprises over in that region. You know, E36 is in sixth, Rejects in seventh. But as we go down the list, I mean, we've seen teams like Crazy Raccoon is the big surprise. That is Obli St. June in Karampu, who had won Split 1 playoffs this past year. They're down in 23rd, so we'll have to see if they can hopefully pick up their form moving forward. And then Riddle Order is another big roster that was put together. A lot of people had some high expectations for. They're down in 27th, so we'll have to see if they can pick it up moving forward. That particular roster, for those who don't know, it's Meltstera, Saku, and Taita. Which, if you watch that region, Meltstera just came from the Fnatic roster. Taita has been on a lot of big rosters in the past. So players you don't really expect to see down in 27th. So we'll have to see if they end up picking it up and are able to regain their form, but nothing like a land to see if they can figure it out. So
yeah, shout out to Urice, friend of the program. If you want to listen to that interview, really timeless interview, because he kind of goes through the entire journey and thought process on why he wanted to move and try all these different things. And I think in that interview, if I can remember correctly, he had said he didn't really feel like competing. But it's always like you see these guys half the time, you know, they're like, I don't know. But then just the lure of ALGS kind of brings them back in. And when they're already so good, why not? You know, you might as well go for it. So
yeah, you can definitely tell with the pop off that he is full into Pro League, because when they won the game, they went absolutely crazy. I think they're all playing together at some sort of like HQ or something like that, because they were all celebrating together. And like I said, it was one of the better. If we're talking about championship celebrations, they've got that on lock. So yeah, if they end up doing well at this recent LAN, again, definitely shout out for Reject, and make sure to keep an eye on them, because they could be somebody that really could turn heads at this next LAN.
So let's round it out with APAC South. Now, APAC South is the final region here. Don, what have you seen from APAC South?
Yeah, so like I said, a lot of similarities to when it comes to APAC North and just the way they play and the style that they've played. APAC South is very much known for being super aggressive, and some of these teams definitely play some very interesting strats when it comes to aping teams or different comps. For match day 2, keep going. Let me actually make sure that's right real quick. So match day 2, keep going, ended up winning the day with 85 points. Big shout out to them. They had 57 kills as a squad. Relatively unknown team in terms of kind of the world stage, but definitely big shout out as they played extremely well. Second place on that day was Roy's team, who, if people remember, that is from the old Dreamfire rosters. Shoji, who is their newest edition went absolutely crazy. If it wasn't for Yulari Man, Shoji would actually be the world leader in kills. He has 50 through 2 match days. He had 33 kills in this particular one, so they went absolutely crazy. And they're a team that is playing some crazy comps, to say the least. They literally opened with Ballistic, Crypto, and Mad Maggie. I believe in the world they might be one of the 2 or 3 teams that's actually running the Maggie, and they are absolutely running it down. Like Shoji basically was playing Maggie the whole time, and literally the first game had 12 kills. They just absolutely just running to anybody and everybody, so it's pretty entertaining to watch. May not be entertaining for my team, Nice Guys, because they're in the same lobby, I think, to start with. So we'll see how that goes. But no, overall, a lot of pretty fun team to watch. Are going to take a lot of fights at this LAN, I think. But definitely big shout out to Lonely Let Go is their team name, and they got second on the day for that match day 2. Moving over to match day 3, Green Stego, who is the ex-Makers roster that people might have seen at previous LANs, they take the day. Pretty complete performance. They played extremely well. Again, it's the same makeup we've seen from this roster for about a year and a half or so. So not really a surprise because, again, they kind of have that pre-built chemistry. They've been together.
What's that roster, by the way?
That roster of players, it's Zicky, Dexter, and Asia. Like I said, it's the ex-Makers for people that have not or don't know who Green Stego is. Makers was their org, and then they got dropped before this recent LAN at Champs. But Asia had a pretty pop-off match day, had 25 kills. So big shout out to him. And like I said, a very experienced roster. So somebody I wouldn't really be too surprised does well at LAN. Their biggest problem is that kind of when they get to that middle to late stages, they kind of fall off a little bit when the lobbies get a little bit tougher. But I think especially early on, it's a team we can definitely be looking forward to at New Orleans. But again, big shout out to them. SWQ, which is a big org over there and has had a roster in Apex South for quite a while. They take second place on that match day. So shout out to them. And if we just move over to the overall standings for the region real quick, we've got Green Stego is actually in first place. Lonely Let Go, which again is Roy's team that I just mentioned with Shoji, they're in second. X and Y, which again has been a team that's been at a couple of recent LANs who love to run it down. They are in third. Dreamfire is in fourth. And then Rival Esports sits in fifth. Notable teams over in that particular region, Seoul, which is Sharky, Jesco, and Legacy. They sit ninth overall. VK Gaming, who we've seen do very well at a couple LANs, and a team I love to shout out with how they've played 2 back-to-back top 10 performances in the most recent LANs over in Germany and Japan. They sit 10th overall. And then kind of going further down the list, big surprise so far has been Team Burger, which is Strafing Flame, Player K, and Pricey. They sit 21st overall. I think as time goes on, they will pick up their form. But right now is a team that definitely has some questions going into this upcoming LAN and further into Pro League. For those who didn't know, Pricey joined the roster of Player K and Strafing Flame after the most recent LAN. So probably still getting some chemistry things figured out. But hopefully they can maybe figure that out at the upcoming LAN.
There we go. So ladies and gents, that is our regional recap. Shout out to Dawn for having all the teams on lock. That is the ALGS around the world. We're going to throw it on down to the heart-to-heart. Almost choked. We're going to throw it on down to the heart-to-heart and send it on the rest. Hold on. We're going to throw it on down to the heart-to-heart and send you guys on the rest of your week. Let's get it. All right, ladies and gents, that was Zachmazer. That was the regional roundup. And now we are going to send you guys off with the heart-to-heart. Ladies and gents, it is heart-to-heart time. Jumba, what happened? What's going on?
Dude, I can't come back here with anything but Leafs up 2-0 in the series.
Damn.
I don't know how many people care about fucking hockey, but I'm 90 ounces of Molson Canadian Deep.
That's
after watching Max Domi clutch up OT winner when I don't know if we deserved it. We didn't play very good in the second and mediocre in the third after an amazing first. But I'm buzzing right now. I'm buzzing.
In every sense of the word.
Every sense. And like, so I would say that, you know, and maybe I'm feeling a little bit sentimental, but like, you know what, at the same time, that Zachmazer interview was good. I thought it was really good.
Yeah.
I like shout out Zach. Like that was he gave us a lot of deep insight, which is pretty sick. We don't
Yeah.
get that all the time.
Yeah, I mean that interview, by every sense of the word, every circumstance of it, was a little bit wild. You know, the timing of it and everything, but I can't really go into too much detail on it. But we'll just say the boys are dedicated. The boys are dedicated big time to making sure we can try to get some interviews going, because I don't know what it is, but like the last couple months, it's been
harder
like,
to like nail
it's
down.
been harder than normal, and not in the way where it's like people don't want to be on the show or anything. It's more just like the timing of everything has not been working out. Like I remember the first year, and I think you know what it is. I really do think the video aspect changes certain things,
100%.
because when we were strictly audio, it was so easy to just get somebody to hop on and just talk for a while.
For sure.
And then when the video aspect gets involved, and they're like, "Oh, do I need a cam?" Like, okay, let me get this set, and then it just changes things. But yeah, dude, like super excited to get that one and talk to Zach again. It had almost been like 3 years since we talked to him. So to get all of this info coming together, bro, there was so much to talk about. I almost completely forgot about Sapporo, because we didn't even ask him until the end. So it was absolutely insane.
To be fair, like we got to land in a week.
Yeah.
Right. So to think of like a previous LAN when we have a LAN in a week is kind of hard. Like this LAN came up really fast. And then like the next LAN after that is going to be really fast. And then we might not have a LAN for a really long time. So it's a little bit of a jarring experience. But yeah, like it's just like long story short to say, like it makes sense. Though we kind of almost forgot about it. But yeah,
no, it was good. It was good. And shout out to Zach for hopping on. And
the last thing I will quickly say is that I'm about to rank. I'm going to tell the podcast this podcast secret. I'm about to go rank with Connor and Jay, and I'm going to do my best to try and hide that I have drank too much beer tonight. So that's. I hope that Connor and Jay listen to this 2 days later and be like, "No fucking wonder we lost 150
so
RP."
much RP.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you're just getting locked for New Orleans with the boys, bro. So I mean,
you just had
my
to get your
my
reps
buddies
in.
all told me they're like, just don't drink. I was like, I am going to be in New Orleans with an Avalanche and Dallas fan, an LA fan, and if the Leafs go to like Game 5, Game 6, me, who's a Toronto fan, the amount of Coors like I will drink that weekend will be on another level. Anyways, I'll stop.
No, it's big.
Stop.
It's
don't
big.
drink alcohol, kids. Don't drink alcohol.
Shout
kids.
out to the Maple Leafs. Shout out to the Maple Leafs. I watched that first period, fell asleep. You know, I woke up to, I think it was like, I literally woke up as it happened, and I had it playing on my phone next to me. So it was
we scored on
crazy
ourselves
see.
twice.
Yeah, it was. I didn't see any of the 2 goals. I just saw the overtime winner. So I haven't even looked back at those yet, but insane.
Anyways,
insane.
We can stop with me. We can stop
from
with
the
me.
Leafs. Dawn.
I'll say real quick before I get into my heart to heart, there really isn't many things like playoff hockey, especially when it gets into overtime. Like I remember, like I will 100% admit I was a fair weather Blackhawks fan when they were winning Stanley Cups. Can't say I've watched a damn hockey game for the most part since then, but playoff hockey is insane. That watching that goal back was absolutely insane to see everybody erupt. So big shout out to playoff hockey. I'll give you guys credit for that.
It's a Tuesday, and I walked into the bar, and they go, "Do you want the dining room?" And I go, "No, I want the bar." And they go, "We don't have any room." And I'm like, I walked in an hour early. I go, I need the bar. I'm like, I was about to walk out, and the guy goes, "We got seats like literally on the bar, like the fucking table." And I was like, "Yeah, that's fine with me." I was not going to sit in the dining room where the TVs are fucking 15,000 feet away from me.
Yeah.
No, screw that.
Hate that.
Yeah, Tuesday.
Hate that.
It's a Tuesday.
100%.
Anyway,
and
the fans are locked, man. You got to give them credit.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if anybody thinks we're talking hockey too much during the middle of the playoffs, I have always done this on the show. Every time the playoffs come around on the show, I always make my heart to heart about my
The viewers
run.
need to understand that I don't think there is anything as exciting as match point format as the NHL playoffs. Yeah, I might sound crazy like that, comparing an esport to a real sport, but like seriously, NHL playoffs, match point format, only 2 things that get me up like for fucking that excitement, that level of excitement.
Exactly. So I've always done this on the show. So don't be all up in a tizzy about it, because we've always done this. Always done this. I remember trying to, when the Avalanche were on their Stanley Cup run, trying to record this show, the other show, and still watch the games was so stressful. Like it was absolutely one of the hardest, I would say, what was that, 2 weeks of my life, where I'm like trying to catch the Stanley Cup final, but I also still have obligations. Wild stuff. Dawn, your heart to heart.
Yeah, I just say really this week's just about getting locked in, man. Like I'm really excited for LAN coming up, obviously with the boys, but now that there's a little extra to it, helping out the and being on Team Nice Guys here. Also, Nice Guy Don, crazy Twitter name, absolutely
Nice
love
guy,
it.
Don.
It's
I was
got a nice
hoping you
ring
would
to
change it.
so I did. Yeah, I ended up changing it. So
That's awesome.
it's
Yeah, I like the
it's a
Nice
solid
Guy
name,
Don.
man. But no, just really taking this week to help the boys get locked in and ready to go. And again, the nice thing about these guys is that it's going to be a lot more about the vibe and having a good time versus having to get first place. Like obviously they're going to go out and do what they can to go win, but at the end of the day, like just having this experience, going to LAN, having a team to root for, really having two teams to root for with our boy Burke. There's a lot of cool things coming up for this week, and like I said, I'm going to be locked in, studying as much as I can about the teams, figuring out POIs they might end up playing out of. So just getting locked in and just really excited for this next week to go by and catch up with everybody down in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's going to be a great time. Cannot wait. Once again, if you guys see us out there, don't be afraid to say what's up and hello, because it's always fun to see y'all. My heart-to-heart this week, I don't really have like anything crazy, but I will say that I guess mine will be dedication and just trying each and every way to get better. I think sometimes you have like a wake-up call when you're doing this type of stuff where you kind of get into a groove of you just get into the same routine over and over and over again, and when you don't change it, you can kind of start to slack off in certain areas. And I think at certain points with not only this show but like all the shows that I do, I think I just got into a place where I was like, okay, I'm making it work, so this should be fine. But that's just not, I don't think, how I should be going about it. I think I should always be pushing myself to go further and further. And like today was a great example. It's like I had to make a pretty big sacrifice to get parts of this done today. And look, I'm lucky enough to be in this situation to be able to do something like that. So I might as well take advantage of it. And so, I think back when this show had first began, there was a lot of sacrifices I had to make as well. Just thinking back to that HAL episode, the first one, like the amount of sleep I got, the amount of times we were editing, re-editing, going through, making sure everything was perfect. It's like that does, it wears on you a little bit, but in a good way. Like it makes you remember what this was all for and what this is all about, and the results speak for themselves. And I just kind of have to get back into that zone sometimes. And even though I might lose a little bit of sleep here and there, or I might lose some time, doing important stuff at home, it's also like I'm making sure I'm doing the right things for the show, and I'm just happy that we were able to get this thing put together this week. So I guess my heart-to-heart would be dedication this week. I hope the Avalanche are dedicated to start winning some fucking games here pretty soon, because I'm not feeling good about our chances. I'm not going to be honest. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know. They have two pretty big players missing, and we're still tied 1-1 going back to Colorado. Like I get that they're a great team, but our roster's nothing to scoff at either. We got to start putting wins together, man. I don't know. If we don't come out of Colorado up 3-1, I'm going to be like very disappointed, because they're missing like their best player, in my opinion. So we got to figure it out. We got to figure it out big time. But that's where I'm at with the NHL playoffs. We're sitting at 1-1. Jump is at 2-0. And hopefully our teams continue to be successful here as we get ready.
I don't even know how to feel.
So my thing is, like, I at least want to be able to watch at least one Leafs game with Jumba in New Orleans, but I don't know how the schedule works out.
If we don't, I won't be upset, because that means my team won.
Got through it for you.
Yeah, it'll end up being good, but then at the very least we'll be able to see an LA Kings game for Troy, probably an Avalanche game for me. So we'll be able to have some games, and then like some of the other series are still fun. I guess I just want to be able to watch games with all the boys, because those are the best times to watch games. Like those are some of the funnest games. As long as Brian doesn't try to like do some bullshit where he jinxes it. As long as that happens, there you go.
I just want to throw out, in a couple weeks, I don't know when, but I can't even tell you guys privately what I'm talking about. But like in a couple weeks, I'm gonna have a crazy heart-to-heart. Something I think is pretty cool. Yeah, I hope people
teaser.
Listen. Yeah, unfortunately,
teasing heart-to-heart.
I'm actually teasing a heart-to-heart. I can't even tell you guys like offline because
Okay.
like I'm not allowed to. But like once I do, it's gonna be pretty sick.
Okay, I'm excited for that.
I don't even
One-
know
Yeah.
what I don't know what you guys are gonna think. You guys won't guess what it is, but like
Yeah.
nonetheless, it's gonna be cool.
Okay, so my last
Absolutely.
thing I wanted to ask, should I do something with the beard before New Orleans or should I leave this thing?
It's up to you about how you think the beard is performing for the Avs. If you think
True.
that, because like I was about to trim today, but like now, I might have to be on camera during the LAN, but I'm like, do I like leave it because of the leaves? I'm fucked.
See, my thing is like, Caitlin brought up the same thing to me. She was like, well, if you shave it, you guys are going to lose. And I was like, well, we already lost a game that we probably should have won.
So like you probably should because like you lost.
Yeah.
If I lost and I shave now, I have a really hard battle of like, do I want to look fucking dirty on camera during LAN where like 30,000 people might be watching, or do I want to shave?
Now let's just say this though. God forbid they lose the next 2 games. At least if they did, you would have your answer. Be like, this beard is doing nothing for me.
Yeah,
so I can just
Thursday
get rid
will
of
tell
it.
me. Thursday will tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for sure, if the Avalanche lose tomorrow, like this thing's going away anyway. I might not fully trim it down, but I might just at least get it shaped because it's got some stragglers.
Yeah, we're going to Nola.
Yeah.
You got to do it. You got to.
Yeah. So that's what. Okay, that was my question. All right, just as long as we get that out of the way. That's the one thing
That's
I
fair.
was wondering about. All right, ladies and gents, once again, thanks again for hopping along and watching this one with us. Shout out to Zachmazer for hopping in and saying what's up on the show. Let us know what you think about the regional recap where we go through all the different regions and talk about what's going on in APAC South, APAC North, and EMEA. And then we can't wait to see you guys in New Orleans. We're going to have some fun stuff over there. We're obviously going to have some episodes coming out. And then I think me, Dawn, and Jumba are potentially going to do a quicker version of the series we did right before Sapporo, where we go through and talk about every single team. We're probably not going to talk about every single team, but we're going to outline some of the teams you should be watching for in each of the groups. So
I'm going to tell you
we're
for
gonna
sure
do
we will
something
not
right
be
there.
talking about every single team.
Yeah,
There's not
because it's
probably, we will
160.
not be.
Yeah, it's 160. So there's going to be some where you just have no clue like what's happening. So we're going to have some more content coming out pretty soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we will catch you guys next week for another episode of the Apex the Podcast. See ya.